Hey, what's up? It's Jared with DJI Auto, and today I'm going to actually do a review, finally, of the Osmo Action. I've got it on the side of my bag here. This is a think tank bag that I've been using for quite a while. It's the Urban Approach 15, and I use my Osmo Action. I've used it a lot on this trip. I've been on a trip for a month with my family. I've got a month left on this road trip. We're in Montana right now. I'm actually in one of the national forests right now. There's a trailhead over there. There's a like a river running through on the way to a lake, and it's just beautiful around here. But my go-to action camera, there's been really two of them that I've been using quite a bit. I talked about the Insta360 camera in another video, so you'll want to check that out. But the Osmo Action, I've continuously gone to over the GoPro for a couple of reasons. Now, the two main reasons, of course, are going to be this front-facing camera and then also the image stabilization that the camera has. So I want to talk about the camera as a whole, though, because if those aren't things that really concern you too much, then I don't want this video to be useless to you. What this camera does that I haven't been able to find in other action cameras is just be extremely easy to use. Now, GoPro, of course, has come a long way over the years. Their camera is great. The GoPro color is maybe iconic to some. A GoPro is a great camera, and there's really nothing wrong with a GoPro. But there are some things that I've had issues with that just have been kind of solved in a camera like this. The first being the front-facing screen. Makes it extremely easy for me to frame up shots when I don't want to go behind the camera, or I don't want to have my phone on me and have to set up the shot in my phone. That's been my biggest problem with using a GoPro, and my hesitation to grabbing a GoPro all the time is that the GoPro is really only good if you're trying to use it as a point of view camera. It is challenging to get those shots set up. If you're trying to point it back at you, you either have to make sure that you're set really wide and using that wide angle lens, which kind of makes things look a little odd, or use your phone to set up the shot and hope that things don't change. Whereas with this screen on the front, you can of course monitor your shot all the time, which I think is extremely useful for those of us that want to use our action cameras in a variety of different ways. One of the things I do recommend doing that I changed initially because I had a hard time with my framing was, typically the full screen is going to be in view here, and it's going to show you kind of like a square crop of your actual framing. You can actually set the camera to show the full image there, which is going to crop the bottom and the top off a little bit, but it's still going to give you that front-facing view. To me, that makes sure that I can keep everything in frame, especially if I have other people in the shot and I want to make sure they stay in frame. I'll need more of a view of that image, so I make the change in the settings there for that. The other thing that I, of course, do is take advantage of that image stabilization, that rock steady image stabilization that actually is really, really good. I've done a lot of videos where I'm following my kids around. I'm shooting as I'm kind of going behind them, getting shots, and maybe coming around, and I'm having to move faster than them to get those shots as we're on trails and stuff like that and running around. So having that image stabilization really helps, and having it built into the camera is great. I know GoPro really stepped up their image stabilization with the Hero 7, but it just isn't quite as good as what you're getting in the Osmo Action. Now, DJI has a lot of experience with image stabilization, these gimbals and all that stuff that they've been building for years. So they're bringing all of that knowledge and intelligence to this camera, and in their rock steady image stabilization, it really shows that they've applied a lot of what they've learned to being able to build a solid action camera. Now, I also have the Osmo Pocket that I use quite often, but I haven't used it as much since the Osmo Action came out, because the Osmo Action gives me good enough stabilization, but it also is something that's more durable, and I don't have to worry about it. The Osmo Pocket has the camera on a gimbal, and I have to worry about it when I put it away. I have to make sure it's in its case, and I worry about stuff hitting it or whatnot. I worry about it getting wet or anything happening to it. And with the Osmo Action, it's just all action, ready to go at any time. I don't really have to worry about it, and it gets me sturdy enough, stable enough shots that I can, of course, enjoy what I filmed and use them in videos, which we've been doing. on our channel that we've kind of started for our family. We haven't really uploaded to it a whole lot yet because it's just been really time consuming to make videos and get them edited, but we're working on it. So if you want to see some videos that include a lot of Osmo action, I'll link to our channel. You could subscribe to it and you'll notice the shots because it's obvious when you're using an action camera like this. It's kind of hard to match that to a standard camera. But with that said, the Osmo Action is just a constant go-to for me. The battery life on it is great. That's one thing I was concerned about because I have a bunch of GoPro batteries. I don't have a bunch of batteries for the Osmo Action, so I was concerned there. But you can top off the charging really fast with a just typical car charger, which is what I've done. Anytime we leave and go somewhere else, plug it into a car charger. In my bag, I have a little tiny battery bank that can actually give this one full charge cycle. And so as long as I have the time to let it do that, it works. But also being plugged into power, if you plug it into power like a battery bank, it just extends the battery life and continues so that you can continue taking pictures and filming with it. Now, I haven't been like super impressed in the photos that come out of the Osmo Action, and I never really have been super impressed with photos out of these action cameras anyways, because, you know, it is a small sensor, it's trying to do a lot. I have other cameras, and so I guess maybe I'm comparing it to those a little bit. And even on the smartphones, I feel like the smartphones are just doing such a good job these days that the only time that I'm really going and grabbing an action camera like the Osmo Action is when I want to shoot video or when I want to shoot time lapses, because I don't worry so much about my camera when I'm shooting video when it's the Osmo Action, because you're typically maybe setting the camera down or attaching it to something or putting it on a little tripod like the Manfrotto Pixie. And I'm not worried about it as much as I would be worried if I was trying to do the same thing with my phone. So the Osmo Action really kind of gives me a little bit of a peace of mind there because it's durable. It can take a fall. It's not going to hurt. It could fall in water and it's not going to hurt it. Even though some cell phones can do those things too, I worry more about the cell phone because it's more than just a camera to me. So with the Osmo Action, the video quality that comes out of it is absolutely fantastic. There's some YouTubers that have made some videos where they're really kind of getting down to the nitty-gritty with the actual video quality and doing some cool things with the video that comes out of the camera. So I'm not going to really talk too much about that there. For me, it just really comes down to whether or not this is a better camera than the GoPro Hero 7, because I do have a GoPro Hero 7 and I also have one of these. So the reasons that I go and grab this over the GoPro Hero 7, even though the Hero 7 is the proven one, the one that's been out for a while, it's been out longer. There's previous versions of the GoPro. The GoPro is a pretty bulletproof camera in most circumstances, but the Osmo Action has debuted and jumped in and really stole a lot of GoPro's thunder because it is such a good camera. I even like the way that the ND filters mount onto this lens a lot better. I don't like that big square. Those ND filters are huge. It's a much smaller lens that's on this camera, a lot easier to adapt stuff to it. Of course, the accessories are less on this, but it does use the GoPro mount on the bottom, and so it's very easy for you to use existing mount equipment that's already out there as long as you're using the housing that came with your Osmo Action, because you're not going to be able to use a GoPro housing on it. With that said, one of the things that is a little bit re-engineered that I really liked, if you're using the mounting that comes with the Osmo Action, the twist lock I think is way better than this setup. I love the twist lock. I'm really hoping that DJI expands their accessories so that I can utilize more twist lock stuff. Right now I'm using a GoPro tripod mount on it so that I can mount it to this little tripod, and usually clamps and other stuff that I'm utilizing GoPro, you know, stuff that was really originally designed for the GoPro with the Osmo Action. But I am excited to see what DJI starts to put out. Should they, I mean, I would only guess that they would put out, they're an accessories company too, so I would imagine that more things are gonna come out here in the near future. It doesn't give you much more than the GoPro Hero 7 does. Of course, you've got that front-facing camera and maybe a little bit better image stabilization, but that's really about it. Of course, GoPro has been around for a while too, so you may feel more comfortable with that and just sticking with the brand awareness that you're already familiar with. However, If you have an older GoPro, maybe like a GoPro 5 or something like that, and you're thinking about upgrading, I would recommend that you consider looking at the Osmo Action over the GoPro. Of course, the GoPro is a great camera, and you're definitely not going to go wrong with a GoPro Hero 7. And maybe even there's a new GoPro coming out soon, because the Hero 7 has been out for a little while. But the Osmo Action definitely has jumped right in and made for an amazing camera. I've had no issues with this camera. I love shooting time lapses with it. I think that's probably the thing I've used this camera for most, is shooting time lapses. You can just clamp it onto something, start recording a time lapse, and have a beautiful time lapse. I've definitely been showing you some of those as I've been talking. So with that said, I'll leave it up to you guys from there. There's a lot of reasons to choose one versus the other. I've had a lot of DJI products, so it didn't really, I wasn't really too scared to try out a new one from them, jumping into a new category with the Osmo Action. I think that they've done a great job, and I'm excited to see what they do in the future with their Osmo Action line. So let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I've got links in the description to the camera, some of the accessories that I use, the micro SD card that I use, and some ND filters. They're all things that I think add to the experience of using the camera and make it much more usable than what just comes in the packaging when you buy the camera itself. So make sure to check out those links to see some of those accessories that I use with this setup. So with that said, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Give it a thumbs up anyways, just to let me know that you're having a great day. And I'd love for you to share this video with someone else who might have some sort of an interest in action cameras. I'd appreciate that. Click on that subscribe button here on the channel to subscribe, and I'll make sure, and hopefully YouTube will also make sure, that you get to see my future videos. Click that bell if you're worried about that, and we'll see you back here in the next one on Ditch Auto. Thanks a lot.